Red, and I'm like,
red.
well, you're right, it is blue and red, but what are we actually looking for? So you should be able to see me in there, right? The red, orange, and yellow guy. So we're looking for blue and black. Those are the cold spots. So we're looking for them to either take shape or to start moving on their own. When I say take shape, that means in the form of a person normally. 90% of the evidence that I have from this is actually something taking in the shape of a person and moving just like a person, just so you know. Does this capture something every single night? Not necessarily, but when we do, it is a holy shit moment. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, it is one of those holy cows. So we do get about 8 to 10 really solid pieces that are like verified this is legit stuff per year. So that's kind of gives you the gist of like how often we actually capture something. The cool thing about your video, because you will be getting this back, there's a blue dot bouncing around the screen showing you exactly where the coldest spot is in the frame at that particular moment. That's going to help guide your eye, and it also has the temperature next to it. I keep track of the temperatures for you, all the moon phases, all that stuff. You're going to see that in your analysis, but I'm normally looking for 15 plus degree temperature drops. So again, that's usually about the average, anything below that. So right now we're running around 60 degrees, so obviously I'm looking for anything 45 degrees and colder. Okay. So kind of keep that in mind. In the event that I do find an anomaly in there that's 45 degrees or colder, that's not the sky. We'll talk more about the sky and why it's so cold. But I will always take a screenshot of it, and that way you guys have kind of a snapshot of evidence. So again, I kind of lay everything out. So it's a big deal for us on the South Carolina, Constitution piece, but I hate politics, especially today since it was all over the damn news. So we're going to move on and talk about Eliza. Her story is way cooler anyway. Eliza married Charles at a young age, according to today's standards. If you're going to ask her how old she was when she got married, you're not going to hear numbers like 12 and 14, like the colonial times that she came from.
Baby.
Interesting.
I don't know what that means when I heard baby.
It actually has some relevance. I want another clue. It's a little too vague for me. Looking for the name of the baby. So, and we don't know if it's going to show up on David's device either. He hasn't told me anything that he's heard yet. So I'm playing with the volume. He's jumping in.
See, when I heard baby, now it starts with me.
So, think of today's standards when you're asking her that question once we spread out. And the reason I bring this up is because her husband, Charles, was over double her age in the 1700s. That's a creepy age gap then. It's a creepy age gap now, just so you guys know. Now, anyway, she married Charles because her father was over in England, where she's from, and he thought he was dying. He's trying to bring all his children home one last time. Eliza didn't believe he was dying, so she stayed put and got married. In 1744, you don't get married in that year to get a green card. We're not even a country. She did marry him out of love. There was no foul play. However, she was right. Dad did not die right away. Instead, he starts sending her gifts from England to this space where we're standing. One of those gifts happened to be the plant seeds of indigo. You guys have been in town for more than a day or so. You've seen indigo, the word somewhere. Yeah. It's a plant that makes blue dye that makes her blue jeans blue. So some of you are wearing it tonight because that's how we use it today. When she got the seeds, she didn't know what to do with them. She had to learn from her servants and slaves how to cultivate it. It's obviously not hot here all the time. So once she figured it out, she moved it to a crash crop plantation just south of here, and then got a hold of her dad and said the rice plantations were going downhill, that they were going to make a killing with the indigo. And now we have an international businesswoman during the colonial times, which is something absolutely unheard of. That's the boring business shit of Eliza Pinckney. Let's talk about the weird stuff, because that's why you guys are here. So, I crack jokes all night. Wow. I can't even get smiles out of you guys until I point out the joke. So, series of questions of things that we commonly get answers to here. I will be honest, every November, December, I always add one place and take one out, or do two of those. This was one of the places I was looking to retire because we were getting some very negative messages out of here. You guys feel like you're pretty quiet folks, so I feel like you're going to be respectful while we're in this location. But again, this is a prominent English woman. Don't piss her off. Like, that's the gist of this space. And I'm going to probably do 2 round robins just to kind of see what's going on with your devices, and then we'll probably hit the road. Like, I'll give you all the answers to these questions of whatever we didn't get in real time, and then we'll go on to the next location. Normally this would be a space for like 20 to 25 minutes because it's so active, just so you know. But questions that you guys can ask. I'm going to actually assign them just so you guys aren't asking the same series of questions. I'm going to give you guys the Eliza's death questions. How old she was, what she died from, where she's buried, and what president was a pallbearer at her funeral. Yeah. Your questions. So obviously the age is going to be a big deal for you. So how old she was when she got married, or how old Charles was. You can also ask how long they were married. We get that number here a lot. These are very specific things. The other thing you can ask about is what happened to the mansion. It's not here. So what happened to it, and when did that happen? So we're obviously looking for a very, very specific date. And again, notice that none of these are yes/no questions, just so you guys kind of get the gist of that. These are very specific things that we get all the time. There's a whole bunch more, but I'm trying to keep things simple. In the event we don't get answers to that or EMF readings, we'll probably call it and move on. So I am going to keep Samantha behind for just a few minutes so I can show her how to use that a little bit further. And then I'm going to be bouncing around with all of you. So again, cameras, there's only one vehicle in here, so nice and easy to stay away from the one target. And don't be filming around that person's car. It's just weird. But we do have the whole space, which is wonderful. So again, start spreading out, start asking the questions. If you just want to focus on them, if you want to ask them out loud, whatever you want to do. Just so you guys know, like, even if you want those letters coming through, there's a knob right below the red dot. If you just
Are you hearing words, Sammy?
Scale it back a little bit. So if you start getting those A, B, C, D, F, G's. All right, so go spread out. I'm going to keep Samantha with me.
Okay.
All right. All right, so your device, have you seen any numbers show up yet?
How old were you? How old was Charles? Where did the mansion go? Where was your favorite room? Did you have children? Do you see them over there in your house? How old were you when you got married? Was this the front of the house? The front door? Heading to the slave quarters. What do you... How old were you when you got married? Where did the house go? I don't understand why there's not a marker. Are you here? Got married? Is that you standing over there by them? Can you stand by them?
few minutes to help her listen in on that while I follow up with them, and then I'll be back with you guys.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. What are you hearing?
Well, I heard baby, and then he was talking about don't try and talk to them about the baby. And as he was like describing, like it makes her mad, it was like go on.
How old? What was the questions? How old were you when you got married? How old was Charles? What did they do with your house? Where's your house at now? What room are we standing in right now? Do you realize your house is gone?
I already heard
How many
14.
slaves did you have? Where is the front of the house at? Can you tell us what your age was when you died?
How's that coming on
Do you
there?
know where the house is?
Those will spread out a little bit further.
What's that? Oh, they spread out a little more.
Yeah. Should be a little more comfortable. Sorry, I didn't mean to pull on somebody's
That,
ear.
no, that's fine.
Any numbers?
I feel like I heard 14.
14. You did hear
I
14.
didn't hear any numbers
How many years they've been
yet.
married?
14 years.
14 years.
Do you know where the house is?
The cameras, just like I told May over there, I don't always follow up with them in real time because I send them to YouTube so I can watch them on a nice big computer screen, and that way you guys can watch them on your TV. It's much easier to find something on those cameras the next day.
Right.
Otherwise, like I was telling her, that's a tiny GoPro. I'm not going to be at an investigation staring at that tiny GoPro waiting for something to happen. I would much rather set them up in a room and kind of let them run with either motion sensors, laser grids, something along those lines, so I can kind of see what's going on and watch the video later.
Yeah, a lot easier to go through. Yeah, I can understand that completely. I mean, especially my age, my eyesight's bad, so I'm not seeing anything anyways. I mean, I see, hot and cold, but
When you said you heard 14, was that through the spirit box, or you saw it on the...
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's
And
like part of a song.
you got a bunch of nothing going on. Take a little bit of a walk around, kind of see if you get any spikes anywhere.
okay.
Because that's, like, you should be walking around trying to find those spikes, so that's where you're probably going to get more answers out of the spirit box piece.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I'll do one more
I'll
round
I'll
robin
walk
and kind of
with
see where everybody's
you
with
and
you.
then
Yeah.
put that on when I get
Whatever's
to
comfortable.
you. So, that way I got you on film. Can you stand by her over there?
Huh?
Nothing? Elisa, can you show us where your favorite room is? Do you know where your house went? Where did it go? Can you tell her how old you were when you got married? How old was Charles? What was your favorite room in the house? Are you getting any spikes? Are you getting any spikes? Is your house next to a church? So, Sammy, did you get anything?
No number plates at all.
The highest I got was 0.4.
Surprised. And that's an anomaly by itself. All right, you two, come on back. Gotta go through these answers. It's not giving us anything other
Did
than
you
that
get
14,
something?
and I don't have anything else to verify it yet.
Okay.
You can cut your video and give your hands a break if you want. 2 or 3 of those digits is normally enough, along with the word fire, for me to say, okay, we had 12 and 61. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Every tour you're going to, go on in Charleston, we all talk about a fire because we've had dozens of them. This is the fire that took out the mansion. This is a map of Charleston. Obviously, the orange is the fire. You are standing on the little tiny green dot that I put on there for you so you can have a point of reference. It literally went from one side of the peninsula all the way to the other, and it went this way. So the only reason the Pinckney Mansion didn't get fully destroyed, first off, it was made of more objects than just wood. So obviously they were a very rich family. But the other piece is they caught it at the beginning. It probably got hotter as it went that way. So we didn't really go into the children. We did get the word baby, which is something we don't normally poke the bear with. So I'll just kind of give you the gist of why we don't do that. There were 4 children. I won't go through them all because we didn't get any clues to any of them. But baby George didn't make it. So he is the 3rd son. But he doesn't have a headstone or a grave either. The weird thing about that is my theory is that they would have mummified this child and kept him right here in the home, waiting for the mother to pass away. And that's going to get even more interesting once we start talking about mom's death. So let's get into that. But George, that's a very interesting theory. You can't Google mummied baby, by the way, and not expect a phone call. I can't prove any of this other than religious values of things that were done back in colonial times. So Eliza's death, she was 70 years old when she passed away. That's a long time for a woman to be living during colonial times.
That is.
I'd just like to point that out.
Very old.
She died in 1793. She was going to Philadelphia, getting treatments, whatever they thought she had. It turned out to be breast cancer. We didn't know what the hell breast cancer was in 1793. We're going based off her medical records today. Now, she died in Philadelphia. She's buried in Philadelphia. That should raise 2 questions in the back of your brain. First off, if she's buried up there, what the hell are we doing down here? None of you are going to hang out near your grave when you're gone. I go to cemeteries all the time. It's minimal activity, just so you know. There's not a whole lot going on there. That's why I don't actually take you to cemeteries. You're going to go to your mansions 400 miles away, which is why we're here. The other question is baby George. If my theory is true, they would have transported this mummy child all the way from here to Philadelphia by horse and carriage. So most of you look like you're old enough to remember Oregon Trail. So again, somebody's going to get dysentery along that way. But that's a long trek. Anybody want to take a guess at who the president was that was the pallbearer at her funeral, 1793?
Jeez.
It's a good thing you can't answer. I'll explain. It was George Washington. At his own request, wanted to pay homage to Eliza based on her indigo that helped get the country started. When we got here, I told everybody, I'm not going to give you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, subliminally putting George Washington in the back of all of your brains, waiting to see who's going to spit it out. Notice that when I'm giving you all the answers, that's the only one I ask back to you. I'm a wordsmith. I get 1. So you guys passed with a fail. Good job. I like to know who I'm working with. That's the only one I'm going to play on you all night long.
Congratulations, I guess.
Yeah, that's congratulations to you. You passed with a fail.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I like when you guys can't answer because that just means you're not going to be repeating everything that I say coming out of a spirit box. So, believe it or not, anybody usually the kids underneath 10, they're usually the ones that spit it back to me like that pretty quickly. It's weird.
I think there might have been something on here. About 325. Just to let you know, yeah.
Her favorite.
Maybe.
Is what I heard
Well,
earlier.
I wouldn't pay attention to the timer.
Right.
Just because you're splicing videos.
Got it.
I'll know based off the visual that I just took of when you said you thought you heard something. Plus, I'll make note of it as we're walking to our next space to watch the end of the Pinckney Mansion site on the thermal.
Okay.
The next spot we're going to is an alley. So definitely want you guys listening in on your spirit boxes. We're not going to be recording any film until we get into the alley, but I want you to keep in mind that it is a popular, like, staple tour stop. So if we get other tours, they didn't get paid. Look at that as an action all on its own, don't we? Because I'll be honest, the disembodied voices I've gotten out of here are Just Leave Us Alone, and it's over 11 radio stations.
10.3.
Oh, of course, now.
5.0.
Anything else?
Just want to let you know. That was creepy.
All right, Eliza. I will see you tomorrow. Duelers Alley. This is where some of the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston. We all tell the story of the same duel, but anybody else got a ringing in their ears?
A little bit.
Now it's gone. Okay. But you're going to get a little bit more detail from me just because you're ghost hunting. Again, this isn't a Campfire Marshmallow ghost story. The way they make it out to be. At least I don't look at it that way. But the story is the base of it is the same. A doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. You're going to be keeping an eye for the letters RI consecutively coming out of the Ouija board device. That's going to be relevant in one of two different ways based on any of the clues. Do you have
got an R as soon as you said R-I.
Not gonna happen. Why was it?
Come on, Ralph.
And it went to 0.
Of course it did.
Not
All right, so
gonna
let's see if you get that I out of it. The weird thing is we were getting the initials RI on spirit boxes. So when that guy was invented, I'm like, I have to have it to see if we can get the initials when we're down Philadelphia Alley. But anyway, he comes down here from Rhode Island because he's supposed to get married to his fiancee Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. So she has an attorney helping her out with all of this cash flow. The attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after Amanda's money. So he tells Amanda, get rid of the doctor. So Dr. Ladd moves to Charleston to prove that he's not after Amanda's money, and he's going to start his practice down here. Well, the coachman that brought him into town, what do you got?
J.
Damn it, he was close.
Well, you had
I had
Y.
R-Y. I had R-Y, J.
R-Y-J, okay. Yeah, definitely not our R-I. So the coachman set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a good start to his stay down here. So somebody was walking by with the name Ralph Isaacs. You can see where I stare at the letters R-I. But we need the secondary clue so we know which person it actually belongs to. But Ralph tells the doctor, dude, you don't want to stay here. I know this guy. He's going to try to kill you and try to take all your cash. I got some friends at 59 Church Street. You can stay with them, and you'll be good to go. Now, there's a lot of things that go on with 59 Church Street, a lot of clues that show up around it. I'm not going to tell them to anybody, so if things start to pop up that you're like, yeah, I don't know what the hell that means, I'll explain it, because it does pop up. But anyway, the doctor took him up on the offer. They became friends. The longer the doctor stays down here, the more money he's making. He's proving his point. He's not after Amanda's money. So Amanda gets wind that he's making quite a bit of cash, and she's coming down so they can get married. And Dr. Ladd became known as the Whistling Doctor. Every haunted city you're ever going to visit in the future will have a cliched whistling ghost. We actually have proof of this one. I'm going to get to it. Ralph and Dr. Ladd go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. That's just the way the hierarchy works in Charleston. So, more people coming down. Might be. Be careful with your filming. Go ahead and point your camera down. It's funny because I've actually been kicked out of this alley, and I'll tell you about that once we end the story on the doctor. And what his mind was. So anyway, they're arguing over this actress on the way home because they couldn't sit next to each other. Dr. Ladd thought she was fantastic, but Ralph didn't think so. So Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiance back home in Rhode Island.
I just no.
It gets really ugly. So I told you Ralph has friends in Charleston. He goes to his friends at the newspaper and puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. But the ads were basically you're a disgrace to society kind of mentality. And we're talking about the late 1780s, so that's kind of what they did back once and for all. So they came down, they took their 10 paces, they turned, the doctor pointed his gun in the air, and he shot. What'd you hear?
Why can't we be friends?
That is funny. But he shot his one bullet in the air. But Ralph, he had his one bullet left. Where do you guys think he put it?
In the doctor.
Where in the doctor?
His mouth?
His kneecap.
Mm.
Yeah, the doctor didn't die either, but he drops to the ground. His friends picked him up, carried him home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. Yes, he was a doctor. He probably tried to bleed out the lead poisoning himself. Again, you have to remember the types of bullets that they were using back then. It wasn't necessarily a gun wound that would
Had to be
just
painful.
pull it out and suture. It was lead poisoning.
That had to be painful.
I'm sure it was. So, the other ghost tours will tell you as you walk through here that you can hear the whistles from the doctor. What I'm going to tell you right now is we're already using my voice recorder. But if you're going to come down here on your own, use your voice recorders on your phone and listen to it later. I am going to warn you that every local knows this story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street throws a whistle down the alley. I do it every single night. You guys know where my garage is at, which means I have to pass the alley in order to get to it. I always throw a whistle down here ever since I got kicked out of here. Here's how that happened. This is the fun part. This alley didn't go all the way through. It actually stopped about halfway between us and Cumberland Street this way. It's because this is where they kept the livestock for the city. So that means those bricks on that side are older, and they are sun-dried bricks from slave children. There's a full handprint and fingerprint swipes in those bricks from the slave kids that had to turn them. My groups always want to stop and try to get a reading out of that brick with the handprint in it. November 26th of 2020, my entire group of 10 people is huddled around that brick trying to get a reading. I'm trying to shoo them along because 2 reasons. A kid's not staring at that brick in the afterlife. I treat it the same way I do a grave. That kid's not there. Second reason is it's outside the dining room window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. And we're not allowed in residential areas, and I didn't know all my boundaries yet, being new at this. So I scurried them along, but the new owner of the mansion came out screaming, tired of me hanging out outside of his window, and my daughter thought it was great because she was on the tour that night because Dad's getting yelled at. We moved on. The next day was Thanksgiving. I worked in retail management for over 20 years, mainly for Walmart. I am never working another Thanksgiving in my life. So, the next day was November 28th. I got a phone call. It says, Nick, you need to go down halfway or reroute your group. Obviously, there was a complaint of some sort. I was in the wrong. So, I decided it wasn't fair for my group of 10 to be working around 20 to 60 others. Our tours are actually allowed to go to 20 people. I just won't do it. So, I told my team, we're going to tell the story out there, over there by that white building, and then I don't believe in the next story we're going to, but we're going to see what happens. I'm a vampire guy, not a pirate person. Somebody heard the name Anne on a spirit box before we left. I did not tell them we are going to be investigating the female pirate Anne Bonny. So I went, damn it. We get down there, I told them what little bit I did know about piracy at the time. Somebody else heard the number 300, and I don't know what that means in real time. I researched it the next day. We were there November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy, November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300th anniversary of her pirate trial. So I went, damn it. I've read more books on piracy ever since, trying to piece together a factual investigation on pirate lore. Be thankful I have a master's degree in creative writing, because this is very difficult to do. Everything we're going to be discussing at the next location is a minimum of 2 resources. Minimum. Because again, that's just how I work. I literally have a stack of books, pirates, nothing, like original works here. So again, it's a very interesting topic. Worst case scenario, like, have you heard anything else, by the way, besides why can't we be friends? I still have to write that one down. That's too funny. But this is an odd location. We don't spend a ton of time in here because obviously it's not like a full investigation. I like to see what's going to go on while we're here. We have gotten our eye here a few times. Keep in mind that the next space is literally across that courtyard, so we're going to be relatively close to this place. We could get clues over there from here. It's called Bleed Over. Same thing with Pinckney Mansion and Big John's. We could have been getting flip-flops either way.
Yeah.
I haven't checked my word list in a minute, so let's kind of see what we got going on here. Oh, we have the doctor's name. Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. We have the name Brown right there.
Wow.
So, and that looks like, I can't read the timestamp upside down, but it is, what time is it now? 9:49. How long have we been here? About 10 minutes?
Uh-huh.
And that was at 9:40. So that was about the time we were walking in here. So, I'm excited about that. This is me excited, everybody. Like, you were asking me about, like, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Like, this is the stuff I see nightly, so I do get, like, conditioned to it. So,
yeah.
His name is probably showing up somewhere else that you guys are just missing in real time, and that could be just in Joseph. It could be Dr. Brown. Like, any of those kind of things will pop up. Is this definitely, like, a great first clue? Yeah. Am I like, oh my god, we have his full name? No, I'm not. So, and you had a small spike, too? Is that right? Did you see it? How much did it go up to?
I don't remember.
I should have wrote it down then, huh?
Yeah. Oh, way earlier it was 3.5, but
I thought you went up a little bit higher than that when I was
Yeah,
looking.
I haven't had anything higher
Okay.
than that.
And have you guys heard anything? Have you guys been focused on me?
We're focused on
Yeah, that's usually what happens in this location. But again, we're going to get clues
I'm
from
trying
you.
hard to ignore you, but
Well, some of this stuff can be really intriguing. This was one of the spaces where we caught one of those giant orbs the other night. And
Awesome.
it was actually with a digital camera, but it was using the light from your camera. It's the only way we caught it. So it was kind of like, all right.
yeah.
So I actually attached an infrared light to that camera so I can start using it that way now. It's like, if that's the
I
only way,
just
because
heard word, and then that keeps going off.
what's the word you got on there?
Anything?
Yeah, I got nothing. Now it's overlapping. So
I guess that does kind of make me a little bit of a liar. I did an investigation in the Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, and we were in a completely, pitch black room, like pitch black, and there was literally an orb that, like, we saw because it was dark.
yeah, did you guys get it on
it
film?
was light, kind of, but everybody's kind of like, everybody was really split on, did we see it? Are we thinking we see it? Stuff like
Fair
that
enough.
kind of thing. So, and it was on one camera, but not the other camera.
That's usually a good sign.
Yeah.
The gate behind me, before we leave the space, remember that the alley didn't go all the way through this way. This was blocked off even when they were doing those duels. So in the event there was a loser, they went through this gate because it was a shortcut to get to that cemetery. So again, the gate itself wasn't there, but the archway was. So the gate was probably put there based on the ironwork, probably early 1900s. But this would have been the shortcut, so that way, otherwise they would have had to go all the way down to Queen Street and come back down and around in order to go drop the dead body. So before they can go celebrate with a pint, and we're talking 1780s, they're drinking ale, they're not drinking beers. So, but yeah, we're going to be going up and discussing pirates. Ignore your numbers while we're on the sidewalks, because we're going to be near parking meters again. For those of you filming, if you want to continue, by all means do so. Again, we might run into some other tours up in that location, but we'll see what we can get out of Ann Bonnie tonight. Hopefully she's going to be active. I'm excited about again, with only 2 cars. Oh, that makes complete sense now. It's not the John I was thinking of. There's 2 different Johns relative to this space. I'll just point it out now. John Calhoun is buried on the other side of this, and every once in a while we'll get something relevant to. They took down his monument back in 2020 with the Black Lives Matter movement that was going through, and we just had John, and I had the word sculpture. Again, it was 50 feet up in the air, and the piece that was holding it up was made out of marble and granite. So if we get any of those terms like that'll pop up, could definitely be relative to him. I normally don't hear from him until March because he was born in March and died in March.
I heard
And that's usually the
Christian.
only time I ever talk about Calhoun,
heard
but you guys are
Christian.
giving me things that might be relevant.
Christian.
Technological. That's a long term to be showing up on there, isn't it? I don't think I've ever seen that there. Rusts. Interesting. All right. So, first off, we're going to be discussing that little tiny building over there with the crosses on it. Those are not crosses. If you're not familiar with earthquake bolts, here's the gist of them. In the event we have another earthquake, like what we did in 1886, which we haven't, you can turn those. They're turnbuckles. So it'll tighten the building up to stop it from getting any further damage from the earthquake. So it's a great idea. It just doesn't work, just so you guys know. The only reason I bring these ones up specifically is because that is the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston put in. Even the apartment building behind it has those like peach squares. Those are also earthquake bolts. But you guys have seen them all over town as lion heads and pineapples and crazy Charleston charm bullshit stuff, right? So, but that's the oldest government building in South Carolina, finished in 1713. So that's the reason why they put in those earthquake bolts. We're here because this is what I call a familiar. This would be the same thing as using a toy to attract a child ghost. We don't have many buildings this old, so this would be something that would be familiar to Ann Bonnie at the time that she was here. So, this story actually begins right in the middle of this building's construction because it took 10 years to build.
You hear
Does that sound like our government? Small building, 10 years? No, not at all.
In here.
1708 is where we start. Now, you guys got to follow me on this one because there's a lot of twists. I will slow down on the twists because it can get a little funky. A young lady named Anne Cormack moves here from Ireland. She's with her father and his mistress. The mistress is Anne's mother. You guys with me so far? slow down on this part, it gets really twisted. The three of them are running away from her father's angry wife. They're leaving Ireland by boat to come here. How pissed off was she? I'm just pointing that out. So, they land in Georgetown. That's between us and Myrtle Beach. Dad bought a plantation, and Mom died pretty quickly. So he's sending young Anne down here to sell anything from the plantation to help keep things afloat. Now, Anne back home in Ireland is said to be a badass. They say she killed one of her servants when she was 7, 8, 9 years old. Remember, we're dealing with pirate lore. Not an exact number. With a knife to the belly. We've had the term servant or slave, knife, belly, all in the same evening. So these things have actually shown up here. Now, fast forward. Building's done in 1713. By 1715, pirates are coming through town. Anne is stoked. She's about 16, 17 years old at this time. She's going to fall in love. Why? So she can earn her freedom, just like a man. It's a man's world. So, at least at the time. It's not anymore. First guy she falls in love with. I said first because there's a handful. We're going to go through them. Because it's hysterical. Now, James Bonney. He kind of already got the gist. Did you guys get a name or something? You guys both looked at each other at the same
That's
time.
what I heard.
Okay, I'll get that one written down.
SCK. Doesn't make...
What's the matter? You heard
said-
SCK?
I don't think any of what I'm getting is making
It's okay.
sense.
It will. But Dad didn't approve of James Bonney because he's a filthy pirate. They ran away to Jamaica. They got married, and Cormac became Anne Bonny, the famous female pirate. However, James Bonney is not Captain Jack Sparrow like she was hoping for. This guy is a privateer. That makes him a spy for the British. He's a coward in her eyes. So a few years later, she falls in love again. This is John Rackham, which is the original John that I thought you guys were listening for, but he went by Calico Jack. This is the guy that they based Captain Jack Sparrow's character off of, just so you guys know. So this is Johnny Depp. This is the guy she's looking for. He has his own ship. And Anne wants to be part of the crew. You can't put a girl on a pirate crew. Does anybody know why?
Bad luck?
Yep, they're bad luck.
Like bananas on a boat. Can't have bananas on a
They're
boat.
bad luck. So, thank you for keeping it family friendly. I get a lot of different answers to that question, by the way. So anyway, he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and hide your gender, you can be part of the crew, as long as you look like the crew. But you're going to be a female in my quarters. She's okay with this because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy apprentice back home in Ireland to hide her away from his wife. So she gets it. But let's put two and two together. She's a female in his quarters. She's eventually going to get pregnant. You can't have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure out that she's a girl, and then they're going to vote Jack off the ship. He drops her off in Cuba before she starts the show and says, have the baby here. These are friends of mine. Come back later, and we'll figure it out. She comes back with, no baby.
I just got ice.
As
Like the
far as
song.
Ice Baby. We have no idea what happened to that child. We don't know if the baby lived, if she abandoned them, what happened. But the significant part of this story is that she comes back dressed like a girl, which makes Jack pretty angry. Now everybody's going to know that he let a girl on the crew. He captured another pirate crew and they're down below deck. Anne's going to go flirting because that's first off who Anne is, and she's trying to make Jack even more mad. We're on guy number 3, in case you lost track. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack captured. Her name is Mary Reed. She went by Mark Reed to become a pirate. We've gotten both names here in the past.
McCarthy?
What was it?
McCarthy?
Yeah, we're going to hear that all day long because of the damn news today.
Oh, yeah, you're
yeah,
going to hear
so
that a lot.
McCarthy.
You're going to hear that a lot.
So, her and Mary become friends, possibly lovers, we don't really know for certain. But the British find out where they are. They send an entire fleet of ships to take down one pirate ship. Anne and Mary, rumor had it, were the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with 1 bullet flintlocks. Obviously, 2 ladies are not going to take on a whole fleet of ships. They get arrested. And as they're getting arrested, she looks at her beau, her captain, Calico Jack, and she says, you should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog. The word dog is very prominent here, just so you guys know. The judge, he wants to see the 2 quote-unquote men that fought back so valiantly on their own after he's already tried and hung Calico Jack 2 days prior, and the crew that wouldn't come up and fight. The 2 ladies go in front and reveal their gender, hoping to save themselves. He doesn't give a shit that they're female. They're still pirates. So, he's still going to hang them. We plead our bellies, was the last thing they shouted out, because you can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail. Dad is still up here in South Carolina with all of his Irish money. He bails out Anne, brings her back home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, but guy number 4, we're going to count Mary. We don't really know. She has 4 kids, dies at the age of 84. That's all we know about her life after her pirate career. Mary Reed died a year later in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates died from in a Jamaican jail. Yes, use your imagination. Most books will tell you that it was fever. I'm going to call bullshit on that and say it was scurvy and nasty and gross. Make it romantic. That kind of thing. We are going to spread out. don't expect a whole lot of numbers out of here. If you get numbers out of the back half, I'll be excited. The closer you get to the bushes, we have 2 electrical poles in the corners, not to mention the parking meters on the other side of the bushes. So it's definitely a listening piece for you. Questions that I left out on purpose. I'm not going to give you a slur of them like what we did at the Pinckney Mansion site. You guys are getting the gist of how to listen to this. I left out the name of Anne Bonny's parents on purpose. That's the father and his mistress. I also left out the name of Calico Jack's ship. We do get other things, but that's just to get you started. This is not like we're prancing around a prominent English woman. You can be bold and do what you need to do to get some answers out of Anne in this location. Again, this is a hit or miss spot, but again, when it's a hit, it's a big hit. So you heard something specific earlier. What was it?
McCarthy?
No,
Four?
it was before that.
Legend, that's what it was.
Legend.
So it's weak, but we'll take it at this point.
Legend.
Again, it's been
SCK.
kind of a light night, so if we can get something legend when I first start something, it's like, oh, okay. And then the name John. So, told you guys about 59 Church Street, right? That is known as the Thomas Rose House. So, and it is a giant yellow house. So we've got the term yellow, we've had Thomas, but Rose shows up all the time.
I heard Rose a long time ago, but I didn't think it like. Because you said a different like pattern. But I heard Rose.
You heard Rose back at the Pinckney Mansion site. I don't know if there's something relative to anything, maybe something she planted. This is relevant to the name of the house. And we're so close to Philadelphia Island. Alright, let's spread out. Let's have some fun at this location. And then we'll see what we can gather out of it. Check my work list.
Let's check these earthquake buckles over here. Let's look at the old building. And what do you want to ask? What questions do you want to ask? Let me see this. All right. Let's go over here and check those out. What was the name of your husband Jack's ship? What was the name of his ship? Do you know this building?
That camera has acted up in here before, by the way. Several times.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's hard to know what's on it now. Those are weird turnbuckles. How old did you say that building is?
1713.
Wow.
So 310 years.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's a museum now.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
All
like
right.
spend the $5, dude. Go see what's in there.
Mhm.
Like it's cool as shit.
Nice, okay.
Like they actually have some of the artillery and the uniforms from all the wars it served. 7 wars, 1 rebellion.
Okay.
But yeah, the construction of this building is amazing. I stopped going into architecture with folks because people are so focused on the ghost piece. Like I cut out the architecture; it just bores people. It's fascinating to me, but
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
But yeah, this building, it's fascinating.
Very cool.
It's got a groin vaulted ceiling inside. It's got 8 pillars that make up the outside of the building. There's no windows in there. It held
Right.
gunpowder.
Yeah, it
And
was
it's
a gun.
also
Okay.
in the corners of where the original Charlestown Wall was on purpose. So
Ah, okay.
we're 3 blocks from the water. If it gets attacked from a cannonball, can't make it this far. If it
Yeah.
does, those walls are 3 feet thick.
Yeah. So they couldn't penetrate it.
Well,
I've seen several of the. I'm trying to think of these. Some of the not Fort Sumter or whatever, but we've been to some other places with my wife and like solved like really similar setups for kind of like the powder and ammo type stuff or whatever.
well, that has
It's pretty
sand in the roof too. So if the cannonball can make it this far and penetrate the gunpowder, the sand will go up and then fall to put out the fire in the gunpowder. That doesn't work
That's-
either.
It's amazing.
But it's still there.
Mhm.
Like they did repairs on this before they turned it into a museum in the 90s, and they found out that the sand is still there. It's not hot enough here to keep it compressed to turn it to glass.
Right.
So the sand is still granulated.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Isn't it?
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, technology for them was amazing.
I don't even look at that as technology. Like you have to.
Well, yeah, I mean, ingenuity,
yeah.
right? I mean, just kind of the
engineering.
the stuff that they're coming up with. Yeah.
You got anything coming out of there?
What was the name of your husband Jack's ship?
Jack was not a husband.
Oh.
It's just a
I
boat.
just hit. I hit 2.5 and it dropped again.
What was the
But,
name of
maybe I'm too
your-
close to that?
No, I wouldn't say that. 2.5 and then Gloria. Let's see see what they got.
What happened to your child in Cuba? Not yet. Seeing what you're hearing when I'm asking the question. What was the name of your boyfriend Jack Ship? And why was he a drunkard? How much gold do you think you had as a pirate? Where is it hidden? Has anyone found your gold? Has anyone found your treasure? Do you know the name of the people on this tour? Where are you buried? What's your name? Tell me if you hear any names. Wow, where are you buried?
Home.
If you can hear us, come towards us. Come to this device.
The interesting thing is, at this location, you'll turn on your motion sensor. If you get a red, that's her showing you what her hair color is.
Oh.
Yeah. So the only way I've ever seen a red come out of this is at this location, and she has to touch it in order to make it go red. Anytime it goes off, you want to click the lowest button on this side, because it's going to go off with your motion. You're a little bit already here. So we'll kind of see if you get anything out of it. It's going to go off as you walk around, because it's detecting motion.
Okay.
But yeah, every time it goes off, click it. If it goes back to the same color that it was already on, like the blue, it's obviously not coming from you. So I like to eliminate those false positives. So always, you're going to click that reset button, dozens of times while we're here.
Sweet.
But yeah, and show us what your hair color was.
What's your hair color? Come and touch the device to show us your hair color. You're moving too slow. So you're moving too slow.
I don't like sprint.
What?
I don't want to sprint.
And are you here? Touch. If you're here, touch that rod. Let's go this way. Are you getting different colors? And what color is your hair? And come here if you don't like those people on the corner. Oh, we got another group in here.
Yeah, they all cut through here, which is why I take us to the back.
Right.
They like to just cut through. They don't spend a lot of time in there.
Do you know this location? Can you tell us where we're at?
And the next location is the one where I don't know everything. That's the wonderful thing for you guys, is I literally can't hide. Cool key factor? Yeah, it is.
It makes sense what you say about them not being here.
What's interesting is there is a Pinckney buried in here. That would be Eliza's great nephew, and I get some evidence from him at the Powder magazine because he was a newspaper editor for the Mercury, and he was a statesman and all kinds of other things. But we get a lot of things about him, about his writing that he did for the newspaper.
Yeah, interesting.
There are said to be Confederate soldiers that walk through here. I haven't done it. Every time you guys record footage here, I always make sure I take a look at it. Because if I get legit footage here, then I'm going to be knocking on the church's door.
I just heard law.
Oh, you want to know why you heard law? The judge that sentenced Ann Bonny and Mary Reed, his name was Nicholas Laws.
Nice. This is
So
just
my name is
law.
probably in there somewhere. You just missed it. Or somebody missed it.
Nice.
Well, it actually wraps all the way around, so if you guys want to continue taking footage as we
Sure.
continue on.
If you're here, now's your chance to show yourself.
Hey, is this what you guys thought you signed up for? You're not all official, I have no idea. I wasn't fishing for compliments.
It's crazy with these crypts right here, isn't it? This is your chance to show yourself if you're here. (1802) died April of 1870.
Everything's a sport. What children will be relative to. Because we're already past the Pinckneys. Alright, so, like I said, first time I came here, no idea what the hell we were going to find. Everything pointed to this guy. So this is Henry Timrod. We had his first name and then part of his last name. So we had Henry and Tim show up in the same evening along with the year of his birth. The exact year of his birth. So it wasn't just like the last two digits. 1828, I believe it was. But this guy was a writer and a poet. He was alive, obviously, during the Civil War times, and he wanted to fight for the Confederacy. So he did. He went out to the battlefield, and his comrades realized he was too sick to fight. So they sent him home. They said, go be the voice of the war. So he came home, and he started writing about what was going on the battlefield. He became known as the laureate of the Confederacy. This guy's a big deal. Like, the college kids now, when they're studying Poe and Dickinson, like, they're throwing Timrod in there, too, because of what he was writing about. However, as he was writing, his wife gave birth to a son. The son died at a very young age. I'm not going to tell you how old he was, or his birthday, death date, any of those things, or even his name. You're going to find that out on your spirit boxes. You're also going to find out what his wife's name was. I'm not going to give you that either. But after his son passes away at a very young age, he is still sick, and one of his college buddies called him up and said, hey, I actually have a cottage out here in Columbia. You can come out here, and you can start writing out here and continue working for the newspaper and kind of get over some of the grief you're going through about your son. So it's 1867, and he goes out to this cottage, and he's writing, and he coughs, and it lands on the page in a form of a blood stain. He had tuberculosis. So his last words, by the way, were beholder of brief mortality, person with short life. And then he coughed and died while writing that last line. So they show this book one day a year at the Charleston Library Society. It's on Halloween. They call it the Blood Book. I am going to show you the page just so you kind of have a gist of like why they actually call it the Blood Book. But the interesting thing about the blood stain is it looks like a man writing over his desk. So it is kind of a creepy factor. Couple of quick traits about Henry. It does take a few minutes to get some activity out of him. He was a very short and shy man. So I've been reading about his biographies and his actual work. Very, very timid man. So you can see where the bloodstain looks like a man writing, and his last lines of beholder of brief mortality. So
That was it.
that was him. So all of his works are at the Charleston Library Society. The interesting thing is I didn't know, I wasn't expecting him here. I've heard this story before when I was taking a buddy's tour, and we heard it at the Charleston Library Society. So I just kept digging. I bought, you know, obviously all of his work so I can start reading it. And I found a very interesting last stanza of his poem called Charleston. And it's going to make a whole lot of sense of why I read it out loud. It's kind of to like stir things up. I know reading poetry can be boring, but this will make sense here in a moment. We know not in the temple of the fates, God has inscribed her doom. He refers to God as a female. And all untroubled in her faith, she waits, the triumph or the tomb. This was written in 1862. It's basically stating that Charleston has to wait for the outcome of the war for either triumph or the tomb. So, very interesting last stanza to be writing about Charleston when we didn't know the outcome of the war just yet. I have found that if I don't read that paragraph, it is very light here. When I do, we get readings of well over 100, and they are normally found in the grassy knoll areas. So most of the time they're over on the exact opposite side of the obelisk, but sometimes we find them over there. So again, you're going to have to explore and see where you're getting the spikes from. We've had other nights where there's been nothing. So again, it's not coming from a building or anything else that's nearby. We do get other clues relative to some of the other monuments. So particularly there's a little monument over there, like off to the left. We get that woman's full name, or like her name is Marguerite Volk. We've had her initials show up on the Ouija board before. We've also had a very odd spelling of Marguerite. I think it only had 2 extra letters. That's a lot of letters for Marguerite. So we were pretty excited about that. But, oh, by the way, for those of you that know that I don't think I told anybody on this tour yet, somebody brought an SLS camera on my tour a few weeks ago. Yeah, so the SLS camera, if you're not familiar with it, it's the stick figures. So they brought it. I don't have one because they're giant. We've actually found a new technology, so we're waiting to see how that's going to work out. But anyway, while we were here, a full 8-minute interaction with a stick figure standing next to this monument, and we tested it. And it was a matter of like, hey Henry, is it okay for me to read a stanza of your poem? Raise your right hand. It'd go up and back down again. Now, the cool thing for you guys is I leave all of your data up on my website for an entire year. So you can go back to December, look at the date at the top, because obviously I noted it, and you can go straight to that date and watch the video. Again, I don't hide anything. It is all there for speculation. But yeah, spread out. This is our last stop, just so you guys know. I'm going to check my word list to kind of see where we're at with things. Keep in mind, other tours do come here, and we do have a homeless gentleman that will come in and kind of just try to start conversations. So stick together if you can.
Okay.
I don't know this gentleman, but we've seen him 3 or 4 times now. So, all right, have some fun. Let's do this.
All
Definitely
right.
find me some.
Matthew 19 and Timothy.
Timothy.
Matthew,
Henry
right?
Timrod. Timothy.
Timothy.
I heard Timothy
Matthew
first,
19.
and then Matthew 19.
So that's not the son's name. So I'll tell you that.
We're asking the son's name.
Son's name, anything you want to. You could. The weird thing about the son is his birthday. So see if you can figure out when his birthday is.
Let's walk over here on the grassy knoll and see. When was your son's birthday?
I just heard Angel.
Henry, where did you die?
120.
120? Remember what you're hearing.
$369.
That means nothing. Angel 120. Henry, are you here? Come close. If you're here, come close. What was your son's name?
I just heard Matt again.
Matt? How
Maybe
old?
it was Matt.
Map? What was your son's name? Henry, are you here? When did you die? Who else is here with you? Do you like those people out there? They're loud and obnoxious. What was your son's birthday?
Billy.
Billy? Billy or Matt? Angel? What was his birth
Angel
date?
121.
Do you know who won the war? What is this little statue here? Do you know what today is? What the year is? Are you getting any readings on that? Hmm.
Not seeing any spikes over here where we normally see them.
It's been 0 this whole time.
I got normal. Oh, oh,
I got Angel.
hang on.
Wait.
Right here. Watch your numbers. You had Angel and what else?
Angel 121. Matt. Billy.
Billy's so close. His son's name is Willie.
Yeah.
He's so close.
And then it could have
Billy.
been Matt, but it sounded
Matt.
like Matt. Mm-hmm.
70 years old. Henry. Where are you? Do you want us to see you? Do you know who won the war? You were here, Henry. Henry, are you here? What is your son's name? Do you know our tour guide's name?
I got up to 12.
Who else is here with you, Henry? Do you know a lot of people are still reading your stuff? Can you come near us? Do you want to go on that side? Have you been over there?
No, you're not all the way. There's like right up this tree that it keeps spiking.
It keeps doing what?
It keeps like spiking when I stand at this tree.
Henry, did something happen in this tree or anyone?
Do you like this tree?
Or do you not like this tree? Is someone hanged here? Is this...
Mm-mm.
She was getting the spikes by this tree, but then... See, when I come around, you get nothing.
I did hear alone earlier. But
So when you... when I come along, you get nothing.
Like, that's a small tour group over there of what I normally see out of these people, just so you know. Like, there's only probably about 12 or 14 people over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're allowed to go to 20.
Okay.
Can you imagine how loud that girl would be with 20?
Yeah. Yeah,
You
she's
see where I'm going with that? And
Right.
why I only do 10.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot
And
of
even
sense.
10 keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you get... It's like herding cats, right? We're all over the place at that point.
Yeah, because I'm literally bouncing around from person to person.
Right. Trying to make sure nobody's doing what they shouldn't be doing.
Well, it's not that. It's, I want you guys to hear things. I want you to
Yeah.
see things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you having an issue with your device? Are you understanding it? You know, it's a lot of conversation of teach and train, teach and train.
Yep. Well, for sure.
Uncover head.
Uncover head.
Are you asking me to take my hat off, Henry? I still have my hair.
You not like his hat?
Apparently not.
It's nice.
Now, if the word pumpkin shows up, I'm gonna shit a brick. Just so you
That
know.
would be crazy. What's on his hat?
Sift.
Well, what is the thing on his hat? What color is it?
Yeah, give us the color. I know you can see it, Henry.
Yeah.
I'm a suspect.
You're such a good writer.
The work actually is really good, but I can
It's
see
fantastic. So, say something about it. Let us know you're here and you're
an obvious
seeing.
sign would be great. I'm the same guy that you talked to over by your monument.
What's his name?
Yeah, my name is showing up here yet.
Tonight? No.
I meant in the
Oh,
time
in
I've been
here.
coming. Yeah, because I've only been coming here for like 2 months.
Okay.
So it's all the other places that they know me.
Right. Have you introduced yourself here?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm also a writer and poet, song lyric, and that's why I can appreciate his work. So normally we have a
Henry, do you know Nick is a writer? Would you like to read some of his stuff?
I'm guessing not. It's all about death.
He's already there.
Still on suspect. Samantha, you got anything?
Barrier.
We're gonna head outside of this park. I will do a small close with you, and then I will send you on your way to take over.
I just got 3.5.
3.5. Alright, looks like they're coming this way. So
Sounds good. Move along. Can we see you? Do you know Nick? What does Nick have on his hat? Do you like hats? Andrew Jackson's mother. Is Andrew Jackson's mother here? Henry, now's your chance. Come on out. They've left. It's just us now. Just us. Did you go over there? Any- If anyone is here, what's your name? We know your son's name was William.
New Year's resolution.
That's nothing really. Do you know what today is, though? What do you think about this place?
I heard dolls earlier.
Do you like this place? Is it quiet? Do you like what Charleston's becoming? You getting any spikes? How many of us are there?
Anything else come out of there, Sam?